Hi, everyone. Welcome back to part 3 of our conference. And you'll see with me, I have Rona today. Rona, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rona Kilmer. I'm super stoked to be here today. It's been great so far. I think we're at the halfway point and I've learned a lot. I've been inspired. People are winning prizes. It's been great.
Absolutely. I think so too. And it's also been a challenge. It's a long day. I have to admit that. I have to admit I skipped part of part 2 to go take a quick break and decompress a little bit, but we're back and we're going strong. Absolutely.
That's why we record things. People can come back and watch on their own time, and having stuff scheduled throughout the day helps everybody regardless of your time zone. So I think this makes it really flexible for people.
Absolutely. Now Rona, how long and how did you become a Flutterista?
Oh, well, I've been working with Flutter for about 2.5 years, and I heard some rumblings about a Flutterista group just before going to Google I/O 2 years ago, and I just jumped in. Sounded like fun, so I landed in the group, and here we are.
Absolutely, and that's actually where we first met in person. So that was really nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's being a Flutterista once again for anybody that's out there that is female or non-binary and wants to join. We have a forum, and there's a bit.ly link which is floating around here somewhere, but we'll make sure we get it in the chat to take care of that if you want to join, and we'd love to have you. And for everybody else that's not a Flutterista, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, thank you all for being here. And I guess it's time to get started. Who have we got up first, Rona?
Great. Well, for part 3, first up, we have Anna from the Ukraine. She is going to be talking about how we can code less and deliver more. Who doesn't love that? Take it away, Anna.
Hi, I am Anna Domashych, Senior Mobile Engineer. I have 7 years of experience in creating mobile applications with cross-platform frameworks, Xamarin and Flutter. During these years, I noticed certain patterns in tasks developers have to solve from project to project in any domain or tech stack. API layer, navigation, dependency injection, localization, tests, etc. A lot of these tasks require creating some boilerplate code, which is error-prone and time-consuming and simply boring. So today we'll explore how code generation tools and approaches can facilitate these and other tasks in Dart and Flutter. To be more specific, we'll create a mobile application that displays a list of upcoming space mission launches, and we'll use code generation to help us with API layer, dependency injection, and navigation. As a data source, I will use Open Launch Library 2 API from the spacedevs.com. Let's get straight to the code. Here I have an empty Flutter project. Pubspec.yaml file contains a minimum of the required information, and main.dart for now only contains a material app with a single empty Space Launches List page widget. I have organized all the code we'll need today into granular commits we will review one by one. We'll start with implementing API models, specifically the Space Launch model. How would a plain Dart object look like? Here's an example of a class with a single ID field. It would have fields declaration, a constructor. It will probably override equals operator and hash code to be safely compared, a toString method for ease of logging. And a copyWith method might be at hand if you want to obtain a new instance with some properties modification. Because we are going to parse this object from JSON, it will also implement a from JSON factory constructor. There are several problems with this implementation. If you add a new property, then you are reminded to add it to a constructor declaration. But that's it. It is now your responsibility to remember to update all other methods. If you have a collection property, it is not enough to apply an equals operator if you want to know whether collections contain the same values and not whether they are the same collection instance. If you have a nullable property and want to update its value to null, this popular implementation will simply keep the previous value instead. Also, your from.json will grow quickly if you have other custom objects inside. To solve all these problems with one solution, we'll use Freest package by Remi Rousselet. It requires adding Freest annotation to dependencies because we will mark production code with Freest attribute, and build runner and Freest to dev dependencies. We will talk about build runner in a moment, but first let's re-implement our space launch model. What do we see here? When code generation tool is run, new code will be placed into a file with .freest suffix, which will be a part of this spacelaunch.dart file. Code will be generated for every class marked with Freest attribute. Properties declaration will go to a private mixin with this name, and implementation of equals, hashcode, toString, and copyWith methods will go to a descendant of this class. Now, back to build runner package we added to pubspec file earlier. On a simplified level, it is a tool to run code generators. It will walk through your project and dependencies, looking for implementations of a builder class, executing their build method, and writing generated code into the file system. To run code generation from the command line, use Flutter pub run build runner. You can use it with build parameter for a one-time generation, or with watch for constant tracking of file system changes. I usually add delete conflicting outputs to avoid any potential errors related to previously generated implementation. Let's now run this command. While we are waiting for it to complete, I plan to entertain you with some facts from the history of space mission launches. At the beginning of the 20th century, there was a burst of scientific investigation into interplanetary travel, inspired by fiction writers such as Jules Verne and Herbert Wells. The first realistic proposal of spaceflight goes back to the work of Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, published in 1903. Spaceflight became an engineering possibility with the work of Robert Goddard, published in 1919, where his ideas of liquid fuel rockets gave sufficient power for interplanetary travel to become possible. Let's check the code now. After the code generation is complete, you can see a new spacelaunch.freest.dart file with all the code required, and our project does not have compilation errors anymore. So, as I mentioned, we now have the implementation of equals, hashcode, toString, and copyWith methods. Freest package has a bunch of other useful features like unions, support with a map and when pattern matching, custom attributes, and more. Check out its documentation on pub.dev. But what about from.json, you may ask? For that, we'll add another package, JSON Serializable by Google. Here you see it in pubspec.yaml file. I will now just update the packages. Notice that our build runner watch command stopped. This happens each time you execute pub-get with some changes in pubspec file. We will rerun this command several times today, and since it's taking some time, I plan to share more from the history of space launches. After the World War II, orbital space flights, both uncrewed and crewed, were developed by the Soviet Union and the United States during the Cold War in a competition named the Space Race. In October 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite of Earth in the history of mankind. Next month, the Soviet Union launched the second satellite, carrying a living animal, a dog named Lycan. After a series of failures, US also managed to launch a satellite, Explorer 1, in February 1958. Let's check the code now. Adding a factory constructor from JSON and another .g part of the space launch file will give us one more generated file with from JSON and to JSON implementations. Here is how a custom JSON key can be provided. It is also possible to provide default values and custom JSON parsers via attributes in this constructor. When space launch object gets created from a JSON map, each property is read by the key matching the property name or the name provided in JSON key attribute. And if a property is a complex object, like launch status or launch mission we have here, a from JSON factory constructors are called consequentially for each such property. Let's also take a look at toJSON implementation. By default, for complex objects, the generated map contains objects themselves, rather than their string dynamic map representation, which can be obtained by consequential calls of toJSON methods. To fix this, we can annotate required classes with JSON serializable attributes specifying explicit toJSON value. You can see that now status and mission properties get serialized to JSON before getting into the resulting map. Most probably you'd want to specify this attribute for all classes. You can do it once in a build.yaml configuration file. This is the place where you configure all code-generating packages. As you can see, here I provide configuration for JSON serializable and specify default value for explicit toJSON setting. We can see the code generation was rerun with new configuration, and we still have consequential toJSON calls on status and mission properties. I have now added a model for a list of upcoming space launches we'll obtain from the API, and we are basically done with the models. Next task is to implement API calls. Launch library exposes REST API to get a list of upcoming space mission launches and details of each mission. To help us with code generation for REST API, I will use retrofit package by Trevor Wong. There is also a package Chopper by Adrien Lejar serving the same purpose. And if you are working with GraphQL API, check out a package called Artemis by Igor Borges. We start by adding retrofit and retrofit generator to project dependencies, and rerunning the watch command after each pubspec file modification. Typically, in real-life development, you won't change pubspec.yaml file so often. Thus, the time it takes for a code generation tool to restore after dependencies list change won't be so noticeable. Since it's still running, I think it's time to continue my lecture on the history of spaceflights. On April 12, 1961, the USSR opened the era of crewed spaceflights with the flight of the first cosmonaut, Yuri Gagarin. His flight took 108 minutes, and he reached an altitude of 327 kilometers. 1 month later, Alan Shepard became the first American to fly into space. On 1963, USSR also launched the first woman into space, Valentina Tereshkova. Back to our task now. Here is how our API service is implemented. What do we see here? Again, a part declaration for a file that will contain generated code. A class is annotated with REST API attribute, which allows to specify a base URL for all API calls. It also allows to customize responses parser. Default is JSON serializable, which is what we need today. A factory constructor has to accept a DO client and optional base URL parameter. Base URL, when provided, has the highest priority. If it's null, then the base URL from REST API attribute will be used. And finally, here is declaration of API method signature. Get all upcoming launches and get single mission details by pass parameter ID. Other supported by retrofit method annotations are post, put, patch, and delete. And parameters attributes like query, body, part, and form field are also supported. What gets generated for us? There are the same two methods with the same signature, and each of them contains DO request with methods and parameters we provided with attributes previously. Notice how the result variable is passed into from JSON constructor of the model we are requesting. It is a method that JSON serializable has already implemented for us on the previous step. So, as long as we create a DO instance and pass it to Space Launch API service, we are all set up to make our first API call. But this is a talk about code generation, remember? We won't do it manually. What we see here is an example of a dependency being injected into a constructor. And in real-life production applications, we might also want to customize base URL pointing to different backend environments. Which leads to our next topic, dependency injection. This time I will use a combination of two packages. Getit by Thomas Buchard is a service locator which allows to create instances of your classes in a single call and automatically resolves all the dependencies if they were previously registered in Getit instance. And Injectable by Mila Takeri is a code generation plugin for Getit that will perform all the registrations in Getit instance for you based on annotations. As usual, we start by adding packages in pubspec.yaml file, performing pub-get, and restarting code generation tool. I think you should know by now what happens next. Landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth was a national goal set by President Kennedy. So in July 1969, astronaut Neil Armstrong took one giant leap for mankind as he stepped onto the moon. The United States is the only country to have successfully conducted crewed missions to the moon. After that, there were 6 other crewed US landings between 1969 and 1972. By the way, on this photo, Buzz Aldrin poses on the moon, allowing Neil Armstrong to photograph both of them using the visor's reflection. Now back to our dependency injection task. We're gonna need a global Getit instance and a method marked with injectable init attribute to configure that instance. We will call this method in the main function before the app starts. There is already a file, injection.config.dart, which contains init-getit method, which is mostly empty for now. It is the method we are referencing here. Now we can mark our Space Launch API service with lazy singleton attribute. I hope the name of this attribute is self-explanatory. Other options are singleton and injectable. Injectable would mean each time a class is requested from Getit, a new instance would be created. Now our code generation fails. Let's see. Space Launch API service is abstract and cannot be registered directly. If it has a factory or a create method, annotate it with factory method. Our Space Launch API service does have a factory method. Let's annotate it with factory method attribute. Now generation does not fail, but there are two warnings. The Space Launch API service depends on unregistered type DO. Let's see what was generated so far and how to fix this warning. We see that Space Launch API service was registered as lazy singleton, and the moment it has to be created, it will try to get a DO instance and a string. But where it will get it from if we have not registered any? Well, just yet. If DO was our own class, we would annotate it with lazy singleton or other available injectable attribute, and it would have no problem resolving it. To work with third-party dependencies, Injectable offers modules mechanism. Here we simply declare instances that we'd like to inject as properties. So whenever someone is asking for a DO instance, return new DO. This is valid both when you are resolving a service that is dependent on DO instance and when you are resolving a DO instance directly from getIt. Now we have one warning less in the terminal output. So what about a string? If we simply say whenever someone is asking for a string, return this value, we might end up with conflict between two different services asking for different kinds of strings. Luckily, there is a named attribute that will help us distinguish between strings. You see it in the modules file, and here we also tell Space Launch API service the name of the string it should be asking for. And base URL now can be made non-nullable. There is no warning here now. Let's see what we've got generated. Injectable has generated a non-abstract child of injectable module. When the app is started and we call initGetIt method, it will create an instance of injectable module and register its properties in getIt. Notice how the base URL value is registered with the name we specified in injectable module. Now, when Space Launch API service is resolved, getIt will provide exactly the string with base URL value as the second parameter. In production code, these names will be extracted to constant values, of course. We have also removed a base URL parameter from the REST API attribute. Now, to create an instance of API service, all we need is to getIt. Another task Injectable can help with is working with different implementations or string values depending on environments you are running your app against. Notice that initGetIt method accepts a string environment variable. Injectable offers three predefined environments: dev, prod, and test, and you are free to create your own. For example, we may have different base URL based on the app flavor. For that, we annotate a property in module with corresponding environment attribute, and then add other string values with the same named attribute value, but other environments attributes. And now, when we call configure.di in main function, imagine we might have several mains. We might pass an environment variable that corresponds to a specific flavor. That was it for the dependency injection solution. It is worth mentioning that getIt and also Injectable supports asynchronous dependencies resolving. getIt allows passing parameters to getIt resolver, it supports scopes, and allows having multiple getIt instances for advanced use. Injectable allows annotating entire implementation classes with environments attributes, even more than one at once. It also supports automatic registration based on naming convention you can specify in build.yaml file. Now it's time to apply some UI I have prepared in advance and run the app. For simplicity of this example, I am using Future Builder. I resolve Space Launch API service instance with getIt the same way we did in an example, and provide getUpcomingLaunches method as a future. Here we go. Here is a list of space launches that have happened in the last 24 hours and the nearest upcoming launches. Some of them are ready to go, and some statuses are yet to be updated. The last but not the least example of code generation application for today is navigation. We now have a new details page that accepts Space Launch model and requests additional details by ID with our Space Launch API service. When using named roads for navigation, opening a page that accepts parameters becomes quite a task. Lucky us, there is a package to automate that, AutoRoute by Milad Akeri. As usual, the first step is to add dependencies to PathSpec YAML and make sure the watch command still runs in the background. Back to space exploration history. The next couple of decades were characterized as the Space Shuttle era. These partially reusable spacecrafts fulfilled many scientific and military requirements, launched numerous satellites, interplanetary probes, and the Hubble Space Telescope, conducted science experiments in orbit, and participated in construction and servicing of the International Space Station. The International Space Station is a research laboratory in low Earth orbit. With many different partners contributing to its design and construction, this high-flying laboratory has become a symbol of cooperation in space exploration. The station has been continuously occupied since the arrival of Expedition 1 in November 2000. On this image, a space shuttle Endeavour is docked to this International Space Station, flying at an altitude of approximately 350 kilometers. This was the final mission of Endeavour in 2011. Since then, all of NASA's space shuttle fleet was retired. Okay, back to our project now. We now need a router class. Here we put a list of all pages we'd like to navigate to and specify the initial app page. And basically that's it. Recent versions of AutoRoute work with Navigator 2.0. It has generated a page route class for each navigation path. And for the Space Launch Details page, it has generated an Arguments class that accepts Space Launch object. We have marked it as required in the Details page constructor, so here in the Arguments class it is also required. To bind this implementation with Material App, I need to create an instance of a router and pass a delegate and route information parser to the Material App router constructor. To navigate to Details page now, we can find the closest AutoRoute instance and call push method, which accepts page route with parameters. To go even further, we can lazily create a singleton instance of Space Launches router in an injectable module and restore it from getIt when initializing Material App navigation and when navigating to Details page. Let's now run the app again to see the navigation in action. Isn't that cool? AutoRoute also allows you to customize route paths, animations of the new page appearance, whether a page is a full-screen dialog, etc. It also supports unknown roads, nested roads, deep links, road guards, and other features. And it works with Navigator 1.0. Check out its documentation at pub.dev. We are done with coding for today. To summarize, we have used code generation to facilitate API models creation, implementing API calls, resolving API service with different parameters based on build target, and navigation. One might think this is too much for a small application like this. When developing your applications, it's important to remember that any solution is worth adding only if its benefits are clear. In your projects, you can use any combinations of these or other packages that solves your particular, or not to use code generation at all. In our case, even in such tiny project, code generation has spared me some typing, and what's more important, it's much easier to add new features when all mechanisms. I could say I have put all these code generation packages here for the purpose of an example. But come on, I would implement it this way in any case. It may feel a bit like magic, which for developers always means anxiety. The good thing about code generation is that it is explicit. All the code is written down into the file system. As you saw today, you can navigate to generated implementations, check out what exactly it does, and you can tweak a lot of packages with attributes or settings in build.yaml file, which we also saw today. I have a couple more examples of tasks that code generation solutions can help you with. Tests. To be more specific, BDD widget tests. There is this cool package by Alexander Leuchenko, which allows you to describe a single test scenario in a natural language, and then generates files with a test and steps from your scenario. It already has a bunch of commonly used steps implemented for you, like given the app is running or when I tap such and such text or icon. And you can implement your own steps specific to your app, like when I'm logged in or then the rocket is launched. What else? Code generation can facilitate localization tasks. I have published an article on how using i69 package by Thomas Verina will generate you Dart files with string keys and helper methods out of your YAML files with translations. It solves passing parameters into a string format, pluralization, and getting string by key. The same problem with generating keys is valid for image and fonts resources, which you have to use by file name. Flutter gen package by Daichi Furia will help you avoiding mistypings in image paths and enable painless renaming refactoring. There are other packages that do not use build runner mechanism, but have own CLI commands to generate stuff for you. Flutter Launcher icon by Mark O'Sullivan will generate required Android and iOS launcher icons out of a single set of PNGs. Flutter Launcher name by Mayashi Daisuke will solve the same task for app launcher name. And the list goes on. You can even generate a UI layer with the right package. Many of these packages have alternatives. I have shown you today those, most of which I have used in my projects. But I encourage you to visit pub.dev and look for other great applications of code generation that you can leverage in your projects. And if you have a repetitive task and there is yet no package that solves it, create one. As usual, there is a package for that. Check out its documentation on pub.dev. All the code we saw today and the presentation is available on my GitHub page. That's it. Here's my final advice for you. I hope this information was helpful and you will start applying code generation in your projects. Thank you for your time.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna. That was wonderful. So many good resources she gave us there.
Absolutely. How is your code generation game, Rana?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a big fan of JSON serializable, but I don't have Freezed and working with my app yet. So I've got some more game to add to my game, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's a good time to check back in with Eleni. Can we bring her up real quick? Hi, Eleni. Can you show us an update of our map and see where all of our attendees are from?
Yes, we had almost 140 answers. And let me zoom in so you can see it better. There is a bunch of people from United States, South America, Europe, someone from Nigeria, and a bunch of people from India. That's exciting. Also Malaysia, South Korea, Philippines, Saudi Arabia, and I think there's Abu Dhabi and Dubai. That's amazing.
Very global for sure.
Yes.
But I don't see Colorado in there.
I think I'm being called out, folks. I'm in Colorado, and there's clearly a big empty spot in the middle of the United States. But there's still time if you are like me and you are slacking and you've not put yourself on the map. There's still time to do that. I think we have a QR code and a website to go to, and we can really get a good idea of where everybody is.
Yes.
Absolutely. Miriam, can you pull up the QR code for us? Nope, that's, yeah, the map code. Yeah, the map code. Absolutely. That QR code up there is there, and it's bit.ly/flutteristas-location. Yes, that was perfect. What you put up there for a second. That's what we're looking at. And if you haven't done it yet, we'd love to know where you're listening to us from or watching us from. This is a really exciting thing that we're doing here, and the encouragement of knowing that all of you are watching us and watching it live. It really helps us, and it's really going to help us decide to do this again. So that is just absolutely incredible. Thank you, Eleni.
Did it. It only takes 30 seconds,
thank you.
folks.
All right, great. Yeah, in fact, all right, perfect. Okay, now next, Dhruva is going to come in, and she's going to tell us how to scroll our widgets effectively. So Dhruva, I'd like to see what you've got. Show us now.
Hello, wonderful people. I'm sure you would be having a great learning and fun time from the awesome talks and activities presented before. Now, I welcome you to my talk at Flutteristas Conference 2021. We know that digital era is growing with leaps and bounds, and data is the new fuel. When we are designing and developing an app, it's important for us to structurize data in a way that provides a seamless user experience. To present large amount of data in a minimum available space, we have multiple options like pagination, list, tabs, etc., from which list is the most used component in majority of the apps. So that leads to us to our today's topic, scroll your widgets efficiently using slivers, and we will see how we can better utilize them to make a pleasant app. Before we start, a little about me. I am Dhruva Shastri. I work as a spin doctor at Three-Sided Coin and able to establish their branding and corporate relations. Being a community passionate and people's person, I play a role as an ambassador for Women Take Makers Ahmedabad Chapter, India. I'm also a facilitator for I'm Remarkable initiative and conduct workshops around self-promotion and challenging social perceptions. Last but not least, I'm a Flutter enthusiast and of course a Flutterista. In case if you are live tweeting or want to connect with me in future, reach out to me over Twitter at Dhruva-Shastri12. So coming back to the talk, Here is an outline. We will see the limitation of list and grid, introduction to slivers. We will see the implementation of slivers through code snippets, and at last I will share some best practices. Talking about the list first, list places all the children in a single column. Messaging apps like Gmail is a good example of it. The limitation with list is that all the children have to follow the same layout provided. Same way, if we take a grade, it allows us to define a number of children in one row but follows the same design throughout the layout as shown here in example of Photos app. Now what? When we want to have a design like an e-commerce app combining list of items, grid view, horizontal scroll, and page view, and we have to accommodate them all in a single page. So that's when Slivers comes into a picture. Now taking all those considerations, this is the sample project that I have created, and it's our today's goal to build this design. The whole design has been created with different types of slivers that we will understand them all through today, code snippets one by one, and will ultimately create this layout. So let's begin. If we talk about the difference between the list view, grid view, and slivers, there is not really a big difference. They are all doing same thing. The only difference between them is that slivers is a protocol, so it needs to be wrapped inside a custom scroll view. All of these scrollable views like list view and grid view are actually using slivers under the hood. You can kind of think of slivers as a lower level interface providing finer grain control on implementing scrollable area. So basically, slivers is a slice of scrollable portion, and because it can lazily build each item just as it scrolls into a view, slivers are particularly useful for efficiently scrolling through large number of children. Talking about how many slivers we have in Flutter, there is a sliver list, sliver grid, sliver fixed, extent list, sliver to box adapter, sliver app bar, etc. From which today we would focus on sliver list, sliver grid, sliver fixed extent list, and take a glance of sliver to box adapter. Now let's start understanding slivers, beginning with a sliver list. Sliver list places children along its main axis. There are two parameters required to implement a sliver list. One is child count. It defines number of items in the list. Another is delegate. This is an important parameter for sliver list and sliver grid, which we would be using multiple times throughout the talk. It supplies items in the list. There are two options to provide delegate. One is sliver child list delegate. When we have already a defined list of items, we can use this option. And second is sliver child builder delegate. It builds dynamic list of items lazily as they appear in the view. Let's see its output in an actual coding. So this is the output for sliver child list delegate. Here I have passed 3 items as the children of list, so we can see 3 rows with an item image, item title, and item price. Looking into its code snippet, here we can see that the first widget is custom scroll view. Custom Scroll View provides scrolling effects using slivers, which ultimately helps build our desired custom layout with list and grid. Inside Sliver Child List Delegate, I have passed a custom widget called Item Row widget. It's made up of card and text widgets. Object fake store response POJO is a required parameter that we are passing for the specific list item that we want to display. And this list has data received from a network call. So this is how we are giving defined list of items to Sliver Child List Delegate to build a Sliver list. When we build a list with this parameter, we don't have to explicitly give child count because as it's a finite list, it automatically gets calculated. Talking about the another option to pass delegate is Sliver Child Builder Delegate. And this is how it looks like. It looks same as list delegate, but if we do not specify child count, it keeps building an infinite list. Let's see its code. You may find builder delegate similar to list view dot builder. Here we can see there are two context and index, so we can provide the index to build the items dynamically. We are building the same item row widget as the previous ones. Child count parameter is optional here. If we give a number, it builds a finite list, as else it builds an infinite scrollable list. Now the next sliver is Sliver Fixed Extent List. It's an alternative to a sliver list. It puts children along the main axis without any spaces. All the items here have the same extent. We pass height to item extent parameter directly. As all the items in this list have same extent, it doesn't have to allot every time, so it's more efficient. Delegate is the same parameter with two options that we already discussed earlier. So let's see how it looks like. As we can see in this image, the yellow highlighted box shows an automatically scrolling page view. To set the height of page view, I have given item extent of 150 pixel. Looking into the code, I have passed Sliver Child List Delegate as a delegate parameter, which is building a page view, and that's of the height 150, which we have passed in item extent. Moving forward to our next sliver, it's Sliver Grid. Sliver Grid places children in two-dimensional array, which we can achieve using two parameters. One is delegate. It's again same as previously we understood. It supplies the items to list. And the second parameter is grid delegate. Using this, we can design the layout of grid. Grid delegate has two options again. One is Sliver Grid Delegate with fixed cross-axis count. We can define number of items in a cross-axis here. Another is Sliver Grid Delegate with max cross-axis extent. It creates a list of items that has maximum cross-axis extent. As we can see in the image, different items have been placed in 3 columns and 4 rows. Here we are building card widget with vertically aligned image, item name and its price. Let's take a look at its code snippet. Here in delegate parameter, we have given Sliver Child Builder Delegate with a custom item column widget. And for grid delegate, we have given sliver grid delegate with fixed cross axis count, in which we have given 3 as a cross axis count that draws 3 tiles in a single row. And for builder delegate, we have given child count 10, so it displays 10 items in a grid. Now this is the output for another option of grid delegate, sliver grid delegate with max cross axis extent. In this image, we can see 4 items have been displayed in a grid with the same card widget with vertically placed children. Let's see its code and how it has been created. Max cross axis extent delegate selects a cross axis extent for the tiles that is as large as possible. The extent evenly divides the cross axis extent of grid. So what it does is, as per the given max cross axis extent value, grid delegate squeezes the items to adjust to put into a grid. For example, if a grid is vertical and is of 500 pixels wide and max cross axis extent value is 150, then grid delegate will create a grid with 4 columns that are 125 pixels wide. So sliver grid delegate with max cross axis extent is useful when we have to design for multiple screen sizes. Now there is also another method using which we can create sliver grid. If we already have a defined list with number of items, we can create sliver grid using either of the constructors count or extent instead of entirely building our own grid as we saw in previous slide. Now that's pretty easy to build sliver grid using a constructor. So I encourage you to try it out at your own and let me know what you build. It's time for a bonus now. Well, I have one more sliver to share about with all of you. It's not a list or grid exactly, but it's helpful in creating a list. Are you curious to know? Cool. Let's see. The bonus sliver is sliver to box adapter. It contains a single box widget. It has a single child parameter as other usual widgets. But actually, where we can apply it? Consider a use case of having a horizontal list view with other slivers. In that situation, we use list view dot builder with horizontal scroll direction and wrap it under sliver to box adapter. So what it does is it creates a box of the size of its children, and inside that we can put the widget of our choice. Here in our case, we have placed list view with horizontal scroll direction and have given a height of 100 pixels. So it created a horizontal list view in between 2 different slivers as we saw in the previous image. Finally, we have achieved our goal of designing an e-commerce app layout, putting all the slivers together. If you notice in the GIF, the app bar appears and disappears when we scroll up, right? That's again a one more sliver. It's sliver app bar. It has properties like floating, flexible space, etc. Leaving it again for you to play with it. So today we learned about different slivers like sliver list, sliver grid, sliver fixed extent list, sliver to box adapter, etc. While using all these slivers, there are some of the best practices to follow for better performance, like refer and analyze the requirements before choosing slivers for the development. Prefer using list view and grid view as much as possible. Consider using sliver fixed extent list over sliver list, as it has all the items with same extent, so it does not have to draw a layout every time. Lastly, consider using sliver list or sliver grid instead of sliver to box adapter whenever possible. To try your hands on slivers, feel free to fork my repo from the given link, utilize it or tweak it as per your requirement, and let me know how you find it. I look forward to your creations. These are the resources that I referred while preparing this talk. The very first is, of course, Flutter docs. They are amazing and my go-to place when I take up something to learn. The blog by Emily Fortuna and Flutter Boring Show on Slivers by Philip and Ian provided a great understanding about the concept. Another talk, Beautify Your List with Slivers by fellow Flutterista Mehtab Tadayan, was really helpful. I was looking for a REST API to display a sample data and found this cool fakestoreapi.com. It's pretty simple and available free online to use. Few more blogs and videos that also I referred to. So all thanks and credits to this content and their creators for providing us these learning materials. I thank Flutteristas community, Neelai, Steph, Daniel, and everyone for building such an inclusive space, organizing this conference, supporting in all the possible ways, and giving me an opportunity to speak. I am grateful for the guidance and help received from GDEs like Argale from Mexico and Dhruva from India. Also, I'm very thankful to the team of Three-Sided Coin and Able for supporting me and encouraging me to explore new domains for the growth. Last but not least, thank you to all of you for listening to me. I hope you had enjoyed the talk. Feel free to connect with me over Twitter at Dhruva Shastri 12. I wish you a wonderful day ahead. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, Dhruva. That was very nice. I appreciated watching that.
Who knew there were so many slivers?
Right? Well, that's always something that has confused me a little bit. So it's nice. It's nice to see it explained that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, next, it takes a lot of work to put on a conference like this, and it was almost 6 months ago that I was talking to Neelai and said we should do a conference, and she said yes, we should. And I had no idea what all it would take, the team that it would take. And so what I would like to do right now is to bring our whole team on here if we can. That would be good. And so this is my this has been known as Danielle's panel in the before this whole time. So we have Maureen from Africa, and we have Sarah and Linda and Neelai, of course, and Nawal, of course, and Ezra, who is one of our newest members, who has handled our all the tweets you've been enjoying have been coming from her, and of course Steph, my co-organizer, and just kind of calling people out. We've got people with their mics muted. Please unmute them before I call on you. And of course, I couldn't do this without my co-organizer Steph. And Mize is here too. She's not showing on
just
screen,
audio.
but she is here. Yeah, she's here. She's not showing on screen, but she's here. And we could not have done this without all of you.
Absolutely.
I'll share a little bit of backstage here. Rona's like, well, I wasn't really part of planning this conference. Although she's here with me now, but what you all don't know is that most of us did rehearsals, and all the rehearsals I went to, Rona was at. So she's helped make sure that the quality is up to the standards that we've been at. So thank you very much, Rona.
Sure, and I would just like to say, my contribution was really not that much, but there were tons of, it was fun being in the background and seeing this amazing collection of women coming together and working so hard to put this together for everybody. So I would like to say on behalf of all people who maybe didn't put as much time into this, that you are all noticed and appreciated. And I think the community that is watching this today and the community that will be watching this in the following days, I think on behalf of everybody, I can say thank you for everything that you all have done to bring this together.
Yay.
Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause.
And I want to thank you all and say congrats, because we are over 1,800 attendees.
All right.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Thank you to Nilay for uniting all of us.
Of course. No, all of us.
Definitely.
Yeah, of course. I'm really, really excited for this conference because, as everyone said, there's a huge team. It's not just me. Everyone knows my name because I volunteered to project manage the entire event. So everyone received a lot of emails and messages from me, but it's not just me. I just put together all the names yesterday, and it is over 50 people worked on this conference. So it was a huge team effort, and thank you so much everyone for doing this. This is amazing.
Bravo.
We couldn't have done it without you, Nilay.
Of course, all of us. That's a huge teamwork.
It definitely would have fallen apart without Nilay. I agree with that. Absolutely. Yes. And
our speakers, all our organizers.
And I was going to say, and another thing that we've got is we've got a lot of great sponsors. And I think our all-star for bringing sponsors in was Linda. So why don't you say hi, Linda?
Hi, everybody. Yes, our sponsors are so generous, and they thought of all our attendees to get at least 2 prizes to go home, to don't go empty-handed. And we have all the other sponsors that all of us brought in. So I'm really happy to see that everybody can have fun, quizzes, and raffles, and free prizes. So yeah, it's excellent. I'm happy for our winners, for our attendees. A big round of applause for our attendees.
Absolutely. And for anybody that doesn't know, when you looked at all the pictures after Flutter Interact, a lot of those were taken by Linda. She was always walking around with a camera in her hand and wanted to make sure she got pictures of everybody. You know,
you gave the secret away.
And activity-wise, I mean, oh my gosh, have we got amazing activities or what?
Yeah,
I mean,
they've been really awesome. But
absolutely,
they did a great job.
And the queen of activities has been Sarah. So can you tell us a little bit about how it was to organize that and jump in and do that?
It was an incredible amount of work. In fact, I was originally in charge of activities and promotion, and I realized that was not humanly possible. So we brought the lovely Ezra on, and she has done a bang-up job with promotions, because that is a whole job in and of itself. But yeah, activities, it's been a lot of fun, actually, to work with all these creative people putting together the different fun things for you to do with the quizzes and the map activity and the scavenger hunt. It's just, yeah, people have thought of things that I would never think of, and it was so great to bring it all together and let you enjoy it too, for sure. And I should mention that several of our sponsors are responsible for the activities, and so they've contributed not just financially, but in terms of time and energy to make the scavenger hunt and the code lab and the quiz and so forth. So, yeah,
it's been amazing. And just piling on praise for Ezra. I was working on that little video I showed at the beginning, and I hope we'll show it again before we're done here. But I was, and thanks to everybody that submitted videos for me to be able to do that. That was a team effort also. But I was editing them all together, and I just didn't like how the end was of what I had. And I said something, and I didn't like the background I had, and I said something to Esra, and she's like, "Well, here, I'm working, but they're not due till Monday, so here, let me just bang something out for you," and it helped make it the amazing thing that it is. But
I'd like to point out, sorry, Danielle, the slides and things and all the little banners and everything. Mace has put those together for us, and even though she's not on screen, I don't want to forget all of the work that she's done for us too, and I appreciate that.
Mace is actually here with us. She just couldn't make it on screen right now.
I wonder if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mace.
Somewhere. Thank you too. It was also a team effort. I mean, I got feedback from the whole team, and we fixed the designs many times, and yeah, they turned out to be great. Thank you all.
Great job. Awesome. Thank you.
And another one of the areas that we just don't think of a lot when we're thinking of Flutter, and someone that's helping us make that happen, especially as a Flutterista, is in Africa. And Maureen, if you could unmute yourself and say a couple of things, I would love that.
Hello.
So how is so how is Flutter in Africa going?
Currently, we have a growing community. Day by day, we find people getting more interested in Flutter, and we thank you all for the support and for the continuous helping each other. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Maureen's been a Flutterista for a long time.
Yeah.
So thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
And last right here, but definitely not least, because we volunteer for anything and everything. we have Nawal. So she's our person that's all over chat. She was all over every meeting I think of any kind of committee we had, she was at. And it'd be 3 a.m, and I'd get like of her time, not my time, of her time. And I'd get a Slack message saying, "I'm so sorry, I can't make this meeting." And I'm like, "It's okay." So anyway, Nawal, hi. It's
Hello.
nice to see you on screen here.
Hi, Nawal.
Oh, you're here.
Yeah.
Oh, here.
Yeah. What was she saying? Like, sleep is for whom?
Sleep is for the weak.
Yeah, she doesn't sleep at all.
She will sleep after the conference. Good.
Right. Yeah.
Amazing.
And like Neil said, we had so many more people that StreamYard only lets us, which is what we're using for our software to stream with. Thank you very much. I want to call out again the Flutter community for helping us, loaning us their YouTube, loaning us their StreamYard, helping us to produce it. We've got a producer right now, Marianne, that's off stage here. That's calling out in my ear. I feel like such a pro. I feel like I'm on the news, and there's like a director that's telling me what's coming up and stuff, and it's amazing. So I want to thank everybody. And there's a lot more than 10 people, but 10 is the most we could grab at one time.
Yep. And website people, right? Farah, she created.
Farah was supposed to be here, and she wasn't able to. She had other stuff.
Farah's been amazing. Absolutely.
She really has. She really has.
And our Dash want to say hi to everybody and good luck.
Yay! Hello.
I hate to brag about everybody, but
Take a picture of all the Dashes now.
Yeah.
Sarah
I have
feels
the
sad
sticker.
now.
Is it work?
Yay, cats!
Oh, anyway, so I just wanted to take this little bit of self-indulgent moment just to pull people on the screen and say thank you so much, and thanks everybody for being able to put this on for us. And I don't think we do this enough to thank the people that aren't necessarily up giving talks. Some of us are still. We have both Nawal and Sarah coming up, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, and it's been an amazing journey, and I hope that we're able to, that this is only the first of many. And thanks.
Awesome.
Definitely.
And thank you, Danielle.
It's been great. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for all your work.
Yay.
All right, now back to work. We're not done yet.
That's right. The rest of you go away. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. And like I said, I cannot thank enough everybody that's been involved in this. That was amazing. But now it is time to get back on to our next video. Merve, who is an Argadash of mine, and I look forward to seeing this. And so we've got Flutter and Rive beyond design. And Rive's been around since the beginning, but I haven't learned how to use it yet. So I'm ready to watch. And Merve, take us away.
Hello everybody, I am Merve Arslan. I am a freelance Flutter developer and designer. In this session, we will talk about Rive and its legendary friendship with Flutter. Let's begin. Creating and decompiling complex interactions in your applications has always been a difficult task. Developers also avoid these difficult designs and often turn to simple designs. But simple interaction designs rarely make a difference in our implementation. That's why I'm going to introduce you to a design tool that will make it very easy to decompile our complex animations, which is a very close friend of Flutter. Rive is an easy-to-use, free, powerful design and animation tool that enables designers and developers to create high-quality animations for their projects. Rive was previously called 2 Dimensions as a company and Flare as a product, and you may remember them as they were. Currently, but the product and the company are called Rive. It allows designers to create custom enhanced interactions, animated icons, loading sequence, game characters, and much more. It is completely online. You can design and visualize all your work in this single and incredibly powerful tool. So, what are the features that make us use Rive? First of all, we don't have to worry about downloading, installing, and licensing. Since everything is online, we can easily use it on every computer connected to the internet. We can make changes whenever and wherever we want, very simple. Next one is the open design model. We can easily share information with each other. For example, we wanted to make a very complex animation, but couldn't figure out how to do it. Just examine the project of someone who has done it before. We can use real-time assets. We don't need to write too many lines of code. As I mentioned at the beginning, takes a huge burden on us from the problems we experience from translating the complex animations into code. And we can test everything we create in Rive and see exactly how it will look in our application. Now I want to show you what we can do with Rive. Just a few examples. Interactive animations in Rive help us create great animation for our apps. Interactive animations are our animation that we designed in Rive, working in interaction with Flutter widgets. I think I can explain more clearly what I want to tell with this example. The sweet and cute bear you see is Teddy. Teddy can move his head according to the text we fill in the text box. Isn't that great? Teddy is a good example of the interactive animations we can do with the Rive, as it can react to the user's input and gives feedback. In Rive, we can use as many animations as we want simultaneously. This is an example of how both Rive's and Flutter's power multiply together. In the case of Rocking Penguin, we can clearly see Rive's ability to mix animations. In this example, we see there are two types of animations of the penguin. The penguin headbanging and walking. The combination of these two animations is a good example. In addition, in this example, we can control how much the animation is mixed up and how fast the penguin shakes its head by adjusting our application in real time. In other words, it takes seconds to turn a soft rock penguin into heavy metal penguin. In this example, when the user pulls down, we mix the zoom animation depending on the movement of the finger. As the Earth continues to rotate in this scene, we can add various layers of star animations on it. Bones. Bones offer an intuitive and natural way of animating our characters and objects such as trees, flags, chains. Skeletons have complementary structures and blend, which makes our file size small and playback smooth. Also, because they all run in real time, we can dynamically change them with code. Now we can check out the Rive interface. Its interface is very similar to the After Effects program, an interface that designers are mostly familiar. There is a window at the bottom left where you can add your assets and where we can see them. Just above it, we have modes in which we can control our assets and hierarchies. We see our work area right in the middle. Just below our workspace is the timeline of our animation. And finally, after we finish our work, we can export it from the top right. Rive started working with Flutter for iOS 18 a few years ago, and their friendship is very strong since then. Now you can see the lamp animation I created in a very short time using both Rive and Flutter. And we see that we can actually control the animation with Flutter's button widget. Adding Rive animations to our Flutter projects is a very easy process. First of all, let's export the animation we made in Rive to use it in Flutter. Later, let's open our favorite Flutter code editor and create a project. Before we can use Flare in your Flutter project, you need to add our Rive library. This library is called Rive. In order to use our Flare file, which we exported from Rive, in the application we will make, we must place this file in a folder. For example, assets, that we will create in our project. Next, we need to add this part of our PubSpec YAML file for Flutter to see the file. Now that our library is ready, we can move on the coding part. The widget we need to use here, Flare Actor. To use Flare Actor, we need to import our Rive package. This widget is a stateless widget that allows you to use your Flare files in your Flutter application. The second key point here is the string of the animation. Simply, there are many animations in a Flare file and they are named with special strings. If you look carefully at your Rive project, you can find many animation names. You can run one animation at a time by specifying the name of the animation. What we want to do here is to change the animation when one of the two buttons is clicked. For this, we need a button and flare actor widget that I just mentioned, where we can use our flare file. With flare actor, let's place our elevated button in columns with the column widget. Assign the on and off strings in our animation to these two buttons. When we run our app, we got a very simple animation that we made using Rive and Flutter. This is just a lamp, but think of it like switching between day and night modes in your app. Flutter and Rive can be used to create more than our simple concept. For example, you can make a game. In iOS 18, Rive made a multiplayer game called Hot Reload. In this game, you are a developer building an app for a company. You place your widgets in your app and use Hot Reload to see the result. And Rive can be used everywhere you develop an app with Flutter. One of them is web, to showcase Rive and Flutter's power on the web. They made dash demo. You can add multiple dashes, control their movement, and change their animation speed. Again, all rendered in real time. With Rive and Flutter, you can create amazing things. Beautiful UIs, real-like animations, crazy interactions, characters, and many more. Rive is not just very useful, it's free to use. So go to your browser, open a new tab, go to Rive and start creating. If you have anything to ask, feel free to contact me on Twitter. Thank you for joining us on this special day, and goodbye.
Wow, Merve, that was wonderful. Rive has always been something I've been meaning to try to learn. Thank you for helping me with that.
Yeah, very cool. I remember Mark Texan, I think, who did like 100 days of Rive, if I recall correctly, and he was posting all of the advancements he was making in his illustration of like donuts and all kinds of stuff that he was building in Rive. It looked so cool. One day I'm going to do that too.
Absolutely. And for everybody that probably doesn't know this, Merve is the one that created our logo. Miriam, can you put the logo up in the corner again? Just I would like people to see that. And then the dash at the top of that is what all of these other dashes are based upon that you see on the background and stuff like that. So she's a very talented artist as well.
Yeah, and I've said a couple times how much I love the line drawing of Dash and the little animation screen where he's flying across the screen. I think it's so cute. Well done.
All right. And what if people want to...
Oh, sorry. I was going to just say that this might be a great time for anyone who's interested in joining the Flutteristas. If you are a female, you identify as female or non-binary, then we welcome you to join our ranks. Just visit that little bit.ly link that you see there on the screen, and we will get you in.
Absolutely. And now we are up to one of our superstars, Nawal, who you just saw in the conference organizers panel, and she's everywhere. She's a bundle of energy. I think everybody that knows Nilay knows that she's about the happiest person alive, but if that's true, Nawal's got to be a close second. She's got to be a close second. So
and Rihanna too is
Rihanna,
joining
absolutely.
Nawal for this one, yeah.
Absolutely. So for the next half hour, let's go check out Nawal and Rihanna talk about ruling all screens. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. We hope that you're enjoying this awesome Flutteristas conference so far. There will be many surprises and so many talks, including this one. Today, Rihanna and I will be talking about how can we rule all screens using Yes, using Flutter. First things first, this is Nawal Alhamwi. I'm a Flutter developer, Women Tech Maker Ambassador, and organizer in WTM Saudi and GDG Jeddah, and of course, a Flutterista. I love designing and testing software products.
Hello, I am Rihanna Kedir. I'm a software engineer and a community enthusiast. I am a Google Developer Expert on web technologies, Flutter and Dart, GDG organizer for Rome, and Women Tech Makers Ambassador, and of course, Flutterista.
So first things first, why to care to hear this talk and what will you learn out of it? Let's all agree that we might have Flutter applications that aren't designed in a responsive and adaptive manner. However, when our Flutter application is responsive and adaptive, we have 1. Beautiful and compatible UI across different screen sizes, meaning we end up having better UI and UX experience for our users, regardless of what devices they were using. Our well-crafted UI will look the same way regardless of what operating system was used by the user's device and even the type of the device that was used, whether it was a mobile, desktop, or even web, because Flutter, by its heart and soul, is a cross-platform solution which supports a variety of devices with different screen sizes. Second point is, we end up having adaptable behavior across all platforms and operating systems. Given the numerous variety of the devices and screen sizes that we got, such as foldable phones, smartwatches, car displays, and more. The beauty of Flutter is that it adapts itself to render the UI on different platforms. In Flutter, everything is a widget. So does how we properly lay out our UI. We have widgets that help to display our UI effectively. We'll discuss more about this throughout our talk. And the last point is a happy user is a happy developer. When our Flutter applications are responsive and adaptive, of course we guarantee that our users are happy. Thereby, of course, we end up being happy as well. So Flutter 2.0 allows a single code base to be compiled on mobile, desktop, and web applications. This means that an application can run on mobile screens and even on screens that are as small as a smartwatch, and of course on wide screens such as desktop and smart TV. It's definitely a challenge to fit our application into such a variety of screen sizes and pixel densities using the same code base. We are at a point that when writing our code, we must consider also the UI to be written once, meaning in an adaptive sense, and of course looks great on each and every screen. We get this by writing our Flutter applications in a responsive and adaptive sense, of course. When developing our applications, we need to make sure that our UIs are responsive so that we don't end up having that overflow pixels yellow stripe. And yes, there is a difference between having a responsive design and having an adaptive design. Responsive applications are applications that are fluid in their design, meaning whatever the screen size is, the content of the page will shrink in a graceful way to fit the new screen size, and vice versa applies as well. Whatever the orientation of the screen, our UI will respond to the change by rearranging the interface components to adapt to the newly available space. Imagine that the responsive design is water. What happens when you pour water in any medium? Exactly. Water takes the shape of its container, just as the responsive design. On the other hand, adaptive design is a UI that's adapted to different screen sizes. It consists of multiple fixed layouts where the size most closely associated with the user's device is rendered, whether that was a phone, a tablet, desktop, or something in between. Now, as we can see in the GIF that we have, one second, yeah. So as we can see in the GIF that we have over here, is that the responsive design gracefully takes the shape of its screen size, unlike the adaptive design, which is obvious that it presents the new fixed UI based on the new screen size. Now, to sum this up, an application that is both responsive and adaptive is our goal. Rihanna will tell us how can we achieve this ultimate goal using specific Flutter widgets. Not only this, but also you will be hearing us talking about breakpoints throughout our talk. So here's a visual summary of how breakpoints reflect the change of our layout. When we have breakpoints, the UI detects that the screen size has changed, and thereby a suitable UI layout is provided as a result. However, if we don't have breakpoints, such as here, our UI tries its best to fit the new screen size. The components of the interface shrink themselves so that the UI responds to the screen size change. When developing for mobile and tablet, we limit to see our designs in different phone sizes and tablet screens. On mobile and tablets, we concentrate on the orientation change, offering adaptive designs if we change the orientation from portrait to landscape, since in this way we'll have more space and vice versa, of course. But Flutter goes beyond mobile platforms. Flutter applications can be compiled into the desktop and the web platforms. Using an infinite number of the browser windows where the app is running, there exists an endless possibilities of how our UI will look like. So let's see how can we make our UI compatible on the numerous screen sizes and operating systems, and of course still look as beautifully compatible as it should be, whether it was presented in a landscape or portrait modes. So of course, we've got different operating systems, we've got different screen sizes, and different layout biology. Hard and fast coding your UI to fit the fit the different screen sizes sounds like a gigantic task. Are you ready to see how can we tackle maintaining a responsive and adaptive UI using the same code base, the Flutter way? I can hear a yes. So let's go.
Well, when it comes to managing responsiveness in Flutter way, there is no hard and fast rule. In Flutter, everything is a widget. Every screen is a widget, and also the entire app is a widget. So how can we build responsive widgets? Flutter allows us to create apps that self-adapt to the device's screen size and orientation. When it comes to responsiveness Flutter way, there are two basic approaches: using the media query.off method inside a build function, and or using a layout builder widget. The media query.off method gives us information about the screen or a window where the app is running. This is more useful if we want to make decisions based on the complete context rather than just the size of a particular widget. On the other hand, when using the layout builder, from its builder property, we get a box constraint object. We can examine the constraints properties to retrieve some information, such as the available size given by the constraint max width and max height values. We can also adjust our displayed widgets based on aspect ratio or some other property. Here is how we can retrieve the information. We place the following code inside a build function. The media query.off context provides us with the current devices or window media query data. And dot size in particular will give us the current window sizes. When we use it, if the user somehow changes the size of the window where the app is running, the build function automatically runs, meaning the widgets below get rebuilt each time. And here's how we can use the layout builder widget. It comes with builder property as function, taking the context and the box constraint arguments. From the constraint, we can retrieve the max width and max height values. When the constraint changes, for example, the user rotates the phone or redimensions the app window size, the build function runs automatically. It is quite handy when the size of our child widget relies heavily on the parent widget's dimensions. The main difference between Media Query and Layout Builder is that Media Query uses the complete context of the window, rather than just the size of our particular widget. On the other hand, Layout Builder can determine the maximum width and height of a particular widget. Layout Builder is a widget that listens to changes to the area in which our widget is located. And whenever that area changes in any way, it will rebuild everything that is below it. The change may occur, for example, when the window is redimensioned by the user, or the orientation is changed from portrait to landscape, or vice versa. Media Query provides us with the screen or window orientation. If we need to determine a specific widget's current orientation, we can use Orientation Builder instead. Just like the Layout Builder, it takes a builder property, and the orientation argument will hold the information about the widget's orientation, meaning if it's a landscape or a portrait. An example demonstrating what we just said. Media Query orientation reflects the orientation of the window, whereas the Orientation Builder, it refers to the particular widget's orientation. So far, we have seen the Media Query that provides us the window info based on a context where our app is running. And we have seen the Layout Builder and the Orientation Builder. Flutter provides us also with widgets that can work for our specific needs in terms of building a responsive UI, such as aspect ratio, fractionally sized box, and so on. And some Flutter widgets simplify the layout structuring and come very handy in terms of creating responsive apps. Let's start with the flexible and expanded widgets. These widgets are useful inside a row or a column or a flex widget. The expanded widget expands the row or column child widget so that the child fills the available space. So if there are multiple children that share the same space, then they share it based on a flex factor. Flexible, on the other hand, does not necessarily have to fill the entire available space. It is useful for controlling how children of row, column, or flex behave while the parent changes dimensions. They look similar. The difference is that expanded forces its child to have exact same size of itself, whereas the flexible widgets lets the child have the same or smaller size than the flexible itself. Sometimes our design calls for a dimension that are relative. For example, a button should take 50% of the app's width and a quarter of the app height. And in this case, a fractionally sized box widget can work well. It helps to size its child to a fraction of the total available space. It might be useful, for example, inside expanded or flexible widgets. Here is how we can use the fractionally sized box. We assign the width factor and the height factor and a child widget. We can set also the alignment to control where exactly the fractionally sized box will be. And sometimes when laying out our app, we might don't care about the exact dimensions that a widget can take, but we might care about the aspect ratio. In this case, we can use the aspect ratio widget. You give it an aspect ratio, which is the ratio between the width and the height of a box. It is often written as a fraction. Aspect ratio child can be any widget. But in case you put something like expanded that don't give the children a choice, well, in this case, a line widget might come handy. By putting a line between the expanded and the aspect ratio, a line will be forced by expanded to fill the area, but it will let its child assume its proportions. If we agree that most of the Flutter widgets are boxes, then sometimes a box cannot fit inside another box. In these cases, fitted box widget can come to rescue. It helps us with managing the space constraint and lay out our boxes. It can come handy when fitting, for example, a large text inside a box or to handle dynamic data that we don't know the dimensions, such as an image from a network. In such cases, the fitted box can help to not interrupt the fluidity of our UI. Fitted box is a widget used to scale and position its child within the parent's box according to a specific fit type or alignment. It makes sure that the UI looks consistent and does not provide any leakage and break the flow, whatever size is the widget we are trying to fit in. Talking about sizes, going through the commonly used screen dimensions, to start developing our responsive and adaptive UI, we need to decide on responsive breakpoints. By breakpoint here, we mean the width of the screen or window where our app is running. You might create a basic responsive UI with just 2 breakpoints, one for tablets and phones and one for laptops and desktop computers, or use 3 breakpoints. That is up to you. So first step is to set your responsive breakpoint based on the unique needs of your design. Once decided our responsive breakpoints, let's draft a code that recognizes in which screen size we are. We can use the media query.ofContext method to compare the widths given with our breakpoints. You can use this method to query if you are running in a large, medium, or small screen. Keep in mind that even if we are talking about screen sizes, but when it comes to web and desktop applications, it's more appropriate to talk about the window size where our app is running. If not media query, we can use the layout builder. In this case, we have to place it at a very top level widget in our widgets tree. We just compare the max widths we have available, and we can use a condition to render out different layouts that adapt different window or screen widths. Now let's see a demo. We applied some of the concepts that we just saw and used them to create this simple responsive landing page. Let's go through the code for the demo. You can check out at the pwa-flutter.web.app if you want to see how this app works. The aim is to rule all screen sizes. Let's go through the main code portions, starting with our responsive helper widget. We will be using the layout builder that takes the 3 layouts to render based on large, medium, and small screen sizes. We're going to use it at a top-level scaffold widget of our landing page. We might need the global context sizes. So we also added these 3 methods that query the media query.ofContext to detect in which kind of screen width size we are running currently. I was running it in an iOS simulator. I can rotate to see if our landing page is looking good in the landscape mode. Fair enough, is acceptable. But for better testing, I'm going to run it as a macOS desktop application. Whether you are delivering it as a desktop or web or mobile app, while developing your UI, might be a good compromise to run it as a desktop app. You can scale the window and check out the layout responsiveness right away. Of course, you can do that also running it as a web application. But as a desktop app, you have the hot reload feature, and that makes testing really faster. Whereas as a web app, currently you have to hot restart. Next up, let's go over the widgets that we have on the screen. So we got the intro text, intro image, the subscribe widget, and the social widgets. Intro image is just an image from the assets with padding. Intro text contains the title and subtitle of the welcoming page. We put the texts on the fitted box, and actually assigned large font sizes. When we redimension our window, our text resizes itself. On the other hand, on the subscription widgets, we have the text field and the button. Here might be the case where we used the global context dimension through this method that uses the media query.of_context to return a Boolean value if we are in a small screen. Our button contains an image in small screens, and in large and medium screens contains a text. Social is a Kalman of social icons. We are using the URL launcher plugin so that on pressed, it will open a link to the social page. Overall, we tried not to hardcode any sizes for the containers, but used a combination of Kalman, raw, wrap, expanded, fitted box containers for the different sub-widgets. Let's see that adaptive portion now. So basically, we are using the same widgets and compose them differently for the 3 screen sizes. For example, the image of the Flutterista logo goes at the right of the large intro text for large and medium screens, and for small screens it goes under the text. Talking about adaptive, one another thing to consider is the user interaction with the app on the different platforms. For example, usually in our cell phones and tablets, we interact by touch, but when we are on a computer, we can use mouse clicks. If widgets like a button in Flutter self-adapt themselves in the different platforms, if that is not our case, one of the widgets that we can use to handle mouse movements is the mouse region widget. So for the menu links, we used the same component, but organized it differently. In small screens is a Kalman inside a drawer, and for large medium screens it's shown as a navbar. We wrapped the links for this demo purpose, and let's see only the about link. So when our mouse pointer is in the text, it changes style. We used a state for the style and used the callbacks fired when entering and exiting the mouse region widget to change the style state, resulting in a style change. Here, if we need to highlight more, we can also use the on-over callback. We used wrap widget to list the links. In small screens, they will be displayed as comments children, and in large medium screen as row children. For the 3 screen size widgets inside the scaffold widget, we used single child scroll view and composed our widgets based on our needs. Well, we can say that by our side, mission accomplished. And as we mentioned, you can accomplish building responsive and adaptive wise in many different ways. And of course, there are other Flutter widgets that we didn't talk about today. And widgets to better customize the responsiveness of your app too. Our UI doesn't break, doesn't go in overflow, and overall looks good in all window dimensions. And I guess all screen sizes. Back from the demo. Well, in case you don't want to reinvent the wheel, there are multiple packages available that you can choose from. Here is the list of some packages that can be used according to your need. Check out the pub.dev or check out the link on the fluttergems.dev site to see examples of using some of the available packages out there that make developing responsive and adaptive UI easier for you. So wrapping up, Flutter has introduced the concept of widgets, the building blocks that can be composed to build an entire app. In order to rule all screens, you don't need to learn any other concept, but practice and figure out the right widget combinations to build your UI that looks beautiful in any screen size. We have seen the important concepts which are required for developing responsive and adaptive layouts. And then it's your choice how you want to exactly implement it in your app. In general, use Media Query for global breakpoint and Layout Builder to display widgets based on available space allocated by a particular parent widget. Use some flexible widgets like Flexible and Expanded inside rowing comments, and the other widgets that we mentioned today whenever suits your need. Some don'ts that might be useful in terms of laying out responsively: avoid hard coding sizes everywhere. That makes things very hard to fit the different screen dimensions. Be mindful when using global size properties in nested widgets. Instead, try to structure UI, for example, using the layout builder at the top level of your widgets tree. Try to avoid using some widgets that use static dimensions or properties. And again, being adaptive and responsive depends on your needs and on the UI design of your app. Check out the GitHub repo with all the codes that we have seen today at the link in this slide.
To know more about responsive and adaptive design in Flutter, do check out the links over here. Okay, let me check if I'm pointing out correctly. And no worries if the links are not visible for now. They are clickable links from the slides. And this is the link. This is the link for the slides. You can access all of the GitHub links as well as all of the mentioned links throughout this talk. Up here. Yep, up here. Exactly. And we hope that you enjoyed our talk today. And in case you've got any questions in regards to today's topic, do reach us out via our Twitter handles up there. Oh yeah. Thank you for coming to our Flutter TED Talk. And now go enjoy ruling all of your screens. Bye.
Wow, that was cool. That brought me back I was flashing back to my time as a web developer where I spent hours on end resizing a browser window, hours and hours tweaking this pixel and that pixel. These widgets that they went through really seemed like they would help speed things along in that department, I think.
Absolutely, and especially after Flutter Engage, when we've got desktop and web as stable,
yeah,
we have even more screens overall than we ever had before. So absolutely.
Somebody just recently brought up built a Flutter app for Apple TV. So I mean, huge sizes down to teeny weeny little stuff on your watch. These are definitely the widgets to watch.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Nawal and Rihanna. That was fantastic. And coming up, we need to bring Sarah back up on the screen because she's the prize lady. And we're going to have a raffle.
We are going to have a raffle. Is Linda here? Or is it just me?
If she's here, absolutely bring her on, yes. Let's do that.
There she is.
Hi, everybody. Who is ready for a raffle?
Yeah.
Let's see. First of all, we have prizes for everybody. Stay tuned. In the chat, you will see the links from Atria, Institute of Technology for free, licenses, Coursera licenses, and O'Reilly 30 days full access to the whole library. So stay tuned. You'll have all the information in the chat. And let's go now to our raffle. We have 5 O'Reilly ebooks at your pleasure. You can choose your books of your heart.
Here we go. It's spinning, it's spinning. The first lucky winner is whoever that is.
First book is It's on.
Okay. In case it's not clear, we will be contacting the people who registered because we have their email associated with the ticket ID. So if you are one of these people, we will be in touch. You will get an O'Reilly ebook of your choice, which sounds great.
I feel like I should be looking at a raffle ticket in YPZL5.
Yeah, it's basically what it is. It's old school raffle. Oh, and my cat wants to win as well.
For everybody else, that'll be funny when we get to the poll.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Enjoy your
two more. Yeah.
All right.
We have a winner.
Yay.
Yay. Okay, here is the last one.
Last O'Reilly book. Let's see who gets it.
Mm.
And the winners can pick any O'Reilly book they want?
Has to be O'Reilly, published by O'Reilly. Yes. Any
Yeah, that's
book
cool.
Published by O'Reilly.
You know, I grew up on O'Reilly, so that's an amazing gift.
Me too.
So did I. I remember learning Perl was like, I slept with it.
I want only to specify something for all the winners to wait. During the weekend, our sponsors don't work. They will start to roll out all the prizes next week. So be patient. The next week, you will receive an email, or the next 2 weeks in the case of Atria for the Coursera courses, because it takes a little bit of time to get all the licenses roll off. So please be patient and do not share the links online that we will share with you. You will receive all of this information in a follow-up email just in case you missed the links for the free prizes for all the attendees. Good luck, everybody.
And while we've got Linda here, I just would like to say for all of our attendees that you know, I think a lot of us were kind of sitting back and being a little complacent because we had great response, and you know, we don't have a lot of, you know, the Flutter community is volunteering things. We don't have expenses. We don't have a lot of things. And Linda just said, no, we need more stuff. Let me go out and get it for you. I'll come back. I'll be back later. She came back with more stuff. So
shout out to all the sponsors. They did it.
Well, speaking of such, can we show that slide, please?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Miriam, can we show the sponsor slide, please? All right. Oh, we had it for a second. There we go. Perfect.
Yay.
And once again, thank you to all of these people. I really appreciate all of your support. The Flutteristas are better because we have people out there in the world to support us like this. Thank you all. But you know, as I look at that, I see the company, and our next speaker is Barbara Tallent from the company. So,
all right.
So
I got a really interesting talk coming up.
Going to work really well. So, if we could have her take the stage, please.
Tallent, co-founder and CEO of the company. I'm very excited to be presenting at this event today and talking about an alternative internet. So 2020 was a crazy year in so many ways, but I definitely think it was a year when the majority of people figured out that the current state of the internet is not good for them. How did we become so inured to security breaches? Do you know that the number of records exposed was over 8 billion in 2020? It was the worst year on record for data breaches. But I think what really over the edge from a social dilemma, 36 million households watched that in the first 28 days of its release, also setting records. Now, I'm in the privacy business, so you would think that nothing on the social dilemma would surprise me, but that was not the case. I guess I always knew that social media companies made money by keeping people on the site as long as possible. The more eyeballs, the more dollars. But I don't think I realized the extent to which they were using people's data and behavior to manipulate them into staying on the sites longer. I think that's what got to everybody. People seem okay with giving up their data, but when they realize that that data is being used to influence their behavior, that's when it gets downright creepy. And of course, we can't talk about the craziness of last year without talking about censorship on social platforms. In an election year, who should be deciding what you see online? A Pew study poll of around 4,700 people in the US across the political spectrum found that 90% of Republicans and 59% of Democrats believed that social media companies were likely censoring content for political reasons. And then there were some crazy changes to privacy policies last year. In fact, I had already deleted Facebook from my phone a long time ago because of the privacy policy, but the new Instagram policy is now just the same. So it gives them access to everything on my phone. And that made me delete that one too. And I do have to applaud the celebrities that stood up and said, you know, these privacy policies are stepping way over the line. Luckily, legislators have been taking note, and California was the first state in the US to implement a privacy policy. And then there are organizations like the Data Dividend Project that really shined a spotlight on some of the bad behavior from big tech companies and told us all to stand up for our rights and own our own data. And most exciting is that people are on the move looking for privacy alternatives. Over 4 million downloads of Signal happened in January, and I'm sure this tweet from Elon Musk had something to do with that. And when consumers vote with their feet, businesses start to listen. I love this quote from Jon Stewart at Cisco. But what I found really interesting is that people actually are happy to share their data. If a company gives better information or a better experience in exchange for that data, people will happily share it. But they also want to be able to take it back. So we believe it's time for an alternative to the online mess that we had in 2020. And it's not all doom and gloom. All through 2020, companies were out there working on this problem. And some of these you're probably well aware of, and some of these may be new to you. But these are all companies who are working on an alternative internet, a way for people to own their own data and have their privacy online. Here are some of the really cool things that you're going to see on the alternative internet as it rolls out. The GDPR, Europe's General Data Protection Regulation, and the CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, increased regulation around privacy in 2020 and 2021, and then the state of Virginia, also in the US, just passed their own privacy legislation. And these regulations are super important for software developers to understand. A software provider can be held liable for data breaches of any size. And you must allow your customers to export their data, and you must be able to delete customers' data from all the places that you have it, including all your backups. So the GDPR also has some more specifics aimed at reducing the amount of data that vendors keep. And all this new privacy legislation and you prompted this ubiquity of these annoying cookie pop-ups. But it's time for cookies and the surveillance tracking that comes with them just to die. Most companies don't know how to deal with the regulation, and so they put up this legalese in front of their customers. But customers are starting to just click away, and now that they really know what's going on, they're just not tolerating it anymore. So thank you to Momoto, an analytics engine that lets your site work without any tracking cookies. This is the pop-up that we have on our site. Due to technology limitations, we've had to send files around the internet. But now technology is enabling this idea of lending files with permissions attached and time to live built in. And this is a beautiful thing for creators who are going to finally control their content. End-to-end encryption was a novelty introduced to most people by WhatsApp. But when WhatsApp was bought by Facebook, people realized that they wanted more privacy and security around their interactions with others. And in 2020, the options for secure chat were simply Signal and Telegram. But in 2021, we'll see several more options coming out. For many of us, the social dilemma was our wake-up call. We want options, and we want people and companies to ask our permission to use our data. And this isn't an easy thing for companies to implement, but we'll see more tech-savvy corporations starting to roll some of that out this year, and with more to follow as the pressure builds upon them. And we'll see a lot of these solutions come from open source. As every Flutterista knows, open source is good for everyone. We need places where everyone can contribute to the online privacy challenge and ways for everyone to benefit. When you have lots of developers contributing to an effort, it's better for all involved. We really don't want any one company owning large swaths of the internet. The internet has been set up so that apps and therefore companies own your data. And when you own your data, that data can actually flow from app to app or company to company. If you don't like your current bank, why shouldn't you just take both your money and your banking records all to a new bank? I don't know of any banks doing this quite yet, but I have heard one very large bank talk about it. So I don't think it's that far from the future. There are a lot of companies working on this future. And here are just a few of them to watch. For me, a fundamental place to start is with a phone. Both eFoundation and Awesome will be supplying phones that don't track you. That's pretty exciting. And I talked about Mimoto Analytics, but mine is another really interesting company in this space. They will help you find all the companies that have your data and get it back. And we've already seen Mozilla and Brave bring us browsers that don't track you, and DuckDuckGo and Neeva supplying search without tracking. My own company is working on a developer platform that makes it super easy for developers to build apps that respect your privacy. And one of my favorite apps built on the platform will be coming to market in the next month is called AppBuzz. So this was created by a developer named Renaissance, and it is all written in Flutter, of course, and it's reimagined peer-to-peer contacts. So each person is only responsible for their contact information on their phone. And you don't ever keep anybody's contact information. You access their contact information that they give you permission to. And so it's always up to date. You always have the latest information. And you can share that information with different people through something called personas. And this is how we are in real life. My soccer coach persona is completely different from my business persona, and I share them with different people. And on this app, you can see exactly what someone is sharing with you and what they are sharing, and what you're sharing with them. You can also build groups that in the app that actually work across multiple apps. And you decide if you don't want somebody contacting you anymore, you can just remove their access. So this is the type of alternative privacy-based internet that's growing. And while it's novel today, regulations and customer demand are going to make it grow very quickly over time. And it's worthwhile to explore more methods for making your apps more privacy compliant. Thank you so much for your time. You can find me at barbara@@sign.com.
Wow. Okay.
Serious food for thought with that one, right?
I'm scared.
I'm ready for the alternate internet. I think a lot of people are ready for it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's wow. And after that serious of a talk, which thank you so much, Barbara. I think that's stuff that we may not have wanted to hear, but we really need to hear.
Absolutely.
And you know, we probably wanted to hear it. We just are scared. It's, you know, it's a scary place out there. Anyway.
Don't be scared. We can all be part of the solution and
That's true.
build better apps that protect our users.
Absolutely. We definitely can do that. And the last thing, okay, so just to give everybody a heads up, if you haven't been with us all day, we're going to have a little bit of fun, and then we're going to end part 3, and you should be automatically taken over to part 4. But if not, you know, you'll find a part 4 coming up right after that. We'll have like a 5-minute break in between, and that's what we're doing. So right now, let's bring Sarah up on the screen.
Hello again.
Hi,
Yeah.
and Sarah, I think you have some fun for us, right?
I do. We've had some serious activities, and now it's time for a fun one. So please go to menti.com and enter the code you see there, 73698255. And if you do that, we can start taking this poll. I'm just going to start it after I see some numbers come in.
It's saying challenge quiz. This is, don't worry, people. This is not really a test. This is just some fun.
No, this is just fun.
I like having that there because of the it shows the code, but yeah, it shows the code. But you know, people, this is not a test. This is just some fun questions. And,
Yeah.
This group likes a challenge. They're ready.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. That's
better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's easier to read, yeah.
Okay. In case people wonder what's going on, I've got a producer in my ear, Miriam. She's done an incredible job for us, and so we were talking back to her because otherwise she can't hear us. But so, you know, I'm glad to think I'm not real crazy. I do have, you know, it's not a case of just voices in my head.
They're
Well,
not
you never
imaginary
know.
anyway.
We could be having a shared delusion of Miriam, but
That's true. That's true. What is it they always say? Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they are not to get you.
Exactly. Okay. I think maybe we've given people enough time to join, and since this isn't a competition, you can just join whenever you want, really. So I think we'll just get started, shall we?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Here we go. How many cups of coffee or tea or Diet Coke or whatever do you drink in a typical day? Here in Norway, it's Pepsi Max. that
Drinking
everyone is
now.
addicted to.
What is Pepsi Max?
Yeah, I'm over there.
Caffeine? My blood is actually coffee.
A fun fact is that Norway drinks the most cups of coffee per capita in the world. Like, I didn't know that until I moved here, but they're just obsessed with coffee, and I am now also obsessed with coffee.
I was wondering if you drank more now that you moved there.
Yes, exactly. I was a tea person before I moved here, and now it's just nonstop coffee.
Well, it looks like most of our people can do moderation.
Yeah, well done. So this is an interesting, like, kind of Weibull distribution. We'll have to, can someone take a screenshot of these? I want to look at it later, but it's time to move on and see what else we have in store.
I'll take screenshots.
Thank you. How much time do you spend per week on side projects? That is, a coding project that is not officially part of your job or study program. Yes, someone already has it as a second job. Really?
I quit my job to do my side project, so now it's.
But
my
then it
full-time
became
job.
your job, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when I
I've
was
got no time for side projects now.
when I was helping Sarah preview these, and I knew you were going to be hosting with me. I definitely wasn't sure how you would answer this question, Nora.
I have all these thoughts about side projects, but one day. Wow, there's some serious commitment out there. 11 or more hours a week. That's great.
Wow. Well, this is a conference on a Saturday, so I think there's some selection bias going on. But yeah, this is impressive. Wow. Well done, audience members.
Not to shame people who spend less time, because that means you're probably better at balancing your life out. So
well, and again, I'd point out the highest number was 4 to 7. So once again, our audience is responsible and shows moderation.
Yeah, good job.
Indeed. Yeah. I usually can't do more than 1 to 3 myself. So next, we have to keep moving because there's a bunch of questions left. What is your Flutter IDE of choice?
Oh, this will be interesting.
Are you trying to start a religious war, Sarah?
Let's try to start a fight here.
I'm just curious. I started with Android Studio because I came from native Android development, and it was just like the easy thing to do. But I've heard lots of really good things about Visual Studio, and I'm kind of curious. So one of these days.
I started with Visual Studio Code, then I switched to Android Studio, and now I'm back to Visual Studio Code. I'm all over the place.
I think they have really good plugin support for both, so it honestly probably doesn't matter that much.
It doesn't.
Well,
and then there's one random who doesn't use an IDE.
Yeah.
Well, that could also be it. That also could be another because one of the great things about the plugins for anybody that doesn't know is that they actually are written so that you can plug them into any IDE. You know.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. They are.
Oh.
You have to integrate it with it, but they're all made to be integrated. And so, like for example, if your job has a custom IDE, they're made to do that.
Nice.
And I'm going to be talking. We're going to be playing an interview I did a little while ago, coming up that talks about these tools and how they work a little bit.
Oh, that'll be interesting. But we have to move on. Got a tight schedule. Do you get to use Flutter at your day job? Yes, hallelujah. No, but I'm working on it. Oh, not a chance.
You forgot to add my answer, Sarah.
Oh no, did I? Oh,
yes, you did.
What was your answer? I'm sorry.
Yes, but not enough.
Yes, but not enough. You're right. That should have been an answer.
Look at all those yes hallelujahs.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's awesome.
Fabulous. Yeah.
I'm really happy to see that, actually. I mean, it is a Flutter conference, but still, it's a nice distribution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm also in the yes, but not enough category because I am in meetings all the time.
See, I told you it was a good answer.
Okay, I think we've got most of our answers. Yeah, that's nice.
Good.
How do you feel when you are writing an application in Flutter? This is a word cloud, so you can type in up to 3 words.
Oh.
Everybody. Yes.
I'm currently writing a plugin. I'm having to learn Swift and use Xcode.
Ooh.
And so when I switch back to Flutter, I feel a sense of elation.
Elation. Nice.
Well, make sure you type it in.
Yeah.
I love the blue heart emoji.
Yeah.
Kudos to whoever did that.
Yeah, that's great.
Happy again.
Yeah, that's me. Happy again. Relief.
Yeah.
Like a Superman, somebody said.
This is a
It's
lot
going
of
to be
fun.
hard to
I like
get a
this one.
screenshot of this one.
Yeah. We can do it at the end. I like how dynamic it is.
Yeah.
This would be a fun thing to write.
Enthusiastic, fluttering, amazing, inspired.
I like how happy is the big one in the center. If I was doing this, I would say happy too.
Yeah. Dash is in there. Dash is mentioned no matter the topic. No matter the topic, Dash is there.
Yeah. Innovative, creative. Yeah. This is good.
Those are some amazing words. Thank you.
This was fun. Yeah.
I hear rumors Nawal wrote the Blue Heart, so
I would believe
just
it.
further evidence that
Yeah.
that she is so happy all the time.
All right, screenshot
All right.
obtained.
Okay, I think we have to move on. How many of the technical people on your team are female or non-binary, including you?
Wow, nice.
Wow.
And that's sad. We
Yeah.
need to fix that with a lot of people, but that shows we've got progress to make. It also shows that we have some, we have a good representation of people. We've got, a wide variety of people here, so that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. Let's get a screenshot and
got it.
I wish we could do had more data and could do statistics on this, but we don't. So.
And I want to know out of how many. So you have 7 people on the team out of how many? 5 people on the team out of how many? Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we were doing a percentage at one point, and just giving people a little bit of the director's commentary here. We actually had it as a percentage at one point, but we just figured that was people don't want to do math on a Saturday.
Fair enough.
And honestly, so many of them are so low that I think this is correct. Okay. Well, I think we have to move on, unfortunately. So next, if you have children, how has this impacted your career? No kids. Oh, I didn't reword this. Abstain here means not that you abstain from sex, that you abstain from answering this question.
I felt like that was obvious, but maybe not.
I thought it was obvious too, but I received some feedback that it wasn't, and I was supposed to change it, and then apparently I didn't, because I was supposed to do about 6,000 things in the last 24 hours, and not all of them got done.
But our activities are top notch. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
So lots of no kids. Perhaps we have a lot of younger folks or students who aren't there yet, or like myself, who just aren't going to have any.
Right. Same here. And
then we've got the second largest is it's had a big impact, which I can totally imagine, especially in COVID times when you have to stay home and kids can't go to school.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the last one is not receiving any answers, so that's encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think it does make sense that of the people that have kids, they say it's had a big impact. All right, I think we've gotten about all of the responses we're going to get, so we'll just move on. Did we get a screenshot?
Sure did.
Great. Okay. Next. Do you exercise? No. I don't have time. Yes.
Oh, I was going to say, is nobody going to answer it? All right.
Well, Rona's got to be the right-hand side there, the 4 or more a week, of course.
I better be, or what am I doing building a fitness app?
That's right. Rona's working on an app has an app that definitely integrates with people's fitness trackers and helps them plan out their training plan, right?
That's right. Cyclists for now, and then eventually runners and triathletes. So, and it's built in Flutter, of course. Wow, lots of spread here.
Yeah, this is really even. I'm definitely in the I wish I did but don't. Try having a job and kids and organizing a conference.
Yeah, I often think about that when I see my friends with kids. And I'm like, I don't know how you fit everything in.
You don't.
Right.
Because I'm exhausted and I don't have kids. I'm running around after, so.
Well, and one of the things that, I'm providing all of our secrets here, but, Sarah at the beginning, all she said is, she says, I just got done with Flutter Vikings. I'm not organizing this conference. And then she has done so much work for us.
I love it so much. I can't help myself. But I should do less. Okay, we have to move on. I'm pretty sure we're running short on time. So,
yep.
How do you feel about work from home, aka home office? I love it.
Thank you for calling it Corona and not the Rona.
Oh no. That must drive you crazy. It would drive me crazy.
Luckily, I don't hear it that often. If I was in Australia, I'd probably hear it a lot more often. That's where I think it originated. But
okay, yeah. I see a lot of people feel the same way I do.
Yeah. Where are you falling? I love it. Can't imagine going back. Yeah.
Yeah. And my company is talking about getting everybody back as soon as possible, and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
So, hey, if you're hiring a remote Flutter developer, I believe my Twitter contact information is somewhere on the screen.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I got a screenshot.
Cool. I think we have to move on. If you have a pet, do they ever help you?
Y'all already saw my cat.
I have pets, but don't allow it. Yes, I allow it. Yes, and I love it.
Well, I apologize because I think people have been hearing my parrot screeching all day. So
Dorian is very helpful.
Yes.
My cat Willow has been a guest several times already. She's sitting next to me actually eating her dinner.
And I'm looking. We are like running late here.
Oh, okay. We will just go on then. Sorry. I think there's one more. There's one more.
Okay.
How many Slack groups or Discord servers are you a member of?
Doesn't matter if they're Flutter related.
No, just in general.
Oh Lord, I couldn't even count.
Right? So it's 10 or more.
I should have done
easy,
like 10 to 20, 20 to 30.
I need a question of like how many do you actually pay attention to?
Yeah.
That's true too.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I'd probably be 6 to 9 in that case, but
Lots of action here from folks. 2 to 5, 6 to 9, 10 or more. That's a lot.
Yep.
For years, I was just the one for work, and then I don't know, the last year it's exponentially grown to 10 or more. Okay, I think we're out
all right.
of time. So
we kind of run through our break.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah.
That was a lot of fun.
And now it's time for us to, all right, so the way this works is we're going to end this video. Everybody's going to go over to part 4, and we're going to enjoy the last part of our conference. And it should take you automatically, but if it doesn't, then you'll just click on part 4, you'll find it. And thank you so much for co-hosting with me, Rona. That's been a blast.
You're welcome. It was fun hanging out. Enjoy the rest of the conference, everybody.
All right.
Bye.